Welcome back, ladies and gents, to Payday Mods Weekly. This is week 2, and before we get onto our first mod this week, I'm going to briefly talk about what happened over the last 7 days, because I was missing. I haven't uploaded a video, and it was quite simple. Crime Fest was over. My creative inspiration was on the down, and so I thought, well, now would be the perfect time to stop and recharge my batteries. So that's what I've done. Moving into the winter season, we're going to see the return of Mask of the Day, which I know a lot of you were worrying had disappeared. No, of course, every single day on the coming weeks there's going to be a Mask of the Day episode, and as ever, Payday Mods Weekly is returning this week, and will do for every week in the coming future. Now, just briefly to talk about Last Bullet Gaming, because as you know, I'm pointing you in their direction for a lot of these mods, but I am now part of the Last Bullet Gaming crew. I'm not really qualified to be part of the modding section, but more covering the media side of things, and that means a few exciting things for the channel, because I get things like news early. Not always can I share it, but on occasion I can drop hints, and let me fill you guys in. Payday 2 has a very exciting future, in fact the Payday franchise on the whole, so stay tuned for all that. Being part of Last Bullet Gaming, of course I'm going to want the website to do well, and I'm going to push you in their direction, but not only because I'm part of the crew, also because I think it is probably the best Payday modding website. No, definitely the best Payday modding website if you have any problems, and it has a huge backlog of mods, which we are of course working our way through in this series. So without further ado, let's move on to our first mod. So as we did last week, I'd like to start off this week's mod show off with a overhaul type mod. We have Zidane's graphics tweak, which changes some things very subtly and removes some massive things, mainly in the menu, to change your overall feel and experience in the game. As I said, the most noticeable were the menu changes. The blue filter on the menu has been removed, so instead you get this sort of nice mixture of monochrome and then color on your guns or your character. It makes showcasing masks and weapons much nicer to do. It's definitely a mod that I may keep on when doing things like Mask of the Day. I wasn't a huge fan of the blue filter, and I feel like the overall feel and shadow looks just a little nicer with this mod on. Then we have one of the more subtle but useful changes, as actually in heist color grading and lens dirt has been removed. So this takes and gives a couple of things. It makes the shadows show up a little nicer, seeing as how the ground is much cleaner, and colours overall look a little less faded and dirty. They separate nicer from each other, and it just has an overall brighter, less shady feel to it. Then we have, as I said, lens dirt, so fewer lens flares and things, or none at all. Now, this is the sticking point. Some people like their lens flares, some don't. I feel like the cleaner feeling of the whole thing makes it worthwhile, but if you're a huge fan of your fancy lighting effects, you may want to stray away from this mod. Finally, we have the full color cameras. Yes, it's just a huge improvement. Again, totally up to you whether you would like that within this mod, but I feel like you barely use cameras on heists anyway these days, but if you just happen to be doing a bank store and checking out the cameras, being able to see everything in full color just looks a little cleaner, simpler, and nicer. Now, this mod does have a couple of benefits to it, because it removes some of the nasty and unnecessary post-processor effects. What we now have is about 7 or 8 more frames per second, so if you're running a budget computer and struggling to run Payday, this may be a mod worth picking up. It's kind of inconclusive. I know it had a small improvement for me, but I'm using a reasonably powerful machine with a 780 graphics card, and I'm not sure how it will affect other machines, but as I said, this is definitely an option if you want to attempt to improve your frame rate. So as I've said, an excellent mod, but again, one based more than any other of your preferences. Do you like your unusual effects, or would you like to keep the game a little simpler and cleaner? I personally like the clean look and will struggle to go back to playing without this, and the menu effects are a huge improvement in my opinion. The modded mask of the week is the Voodoo Mask. This was added by Ryzak, and there's a couple of confusing things. This mask doesn't come really with a unique description, just says black magic, and then there's a little bit about how this mask was removed from the game for some reason. So I'm not sure whether this mask was similar to the Toby mask from the Naruto anime and manga, There's a version of it on Last Bullet Gaming currently called Twister. I know that was removed for copyright reasons, but I'm not sure whether the Voodoo Mask went through the same sort of process and was planned for the game. Certainly wasn't as well known for that. I wasn't aware of it before now, but either way, Ryzak's done an excellent job either creating this awesome looking mask or adding it into the game. It's got some jiggle bone physics. I say some, it's got quite a lot on the dreadlocks. In fact, the physics on this mask work really nicely. One amusing thing is when you preview the mask, the dreads, for whatever reason, launch straight up into the air, go all over the place. But I guess it shows off actually how good the physics engine is for it. I know recently they added a female police officer whose hair, whose ponytail has a very nice physics bounce with it, and this is very much so the same effect. So again, it customizes really nicely, a lot of good shadow positioning. Neon was the material I put on it, and as you can see, it looks really nice. One thing to worry about when downloading this mask is it does replace the Big Lips mask. I'm not sure anyone who is a huge fan of the Big Lips, but I said that about Kenneth and I offended a couple of people, so I apologize. Not my favorite mask, but definitely if you are worried about losing a Big Lips design you have, do be cautious when it comes to downloading the Voodoo. But I would rather have the Voodoo myself. Probably the nicest looking mask on the Last Bullet Gaming Nexus if you ask me, but just my personal opinion. Now I know you guys preferred the overhaul type mods to the retextures, but with the next few I just could not resist. They're some of the best done retextures and remodels, but first of all let's take a look at the AWP. This was added by Last Bullet Gaming themselves. I know it was submitted by the one and only AJ Valentine, one of Last Bullet's best modders, and overall it's a very impressive mod. Let's first of all talk about the aesthetics of this thing. You can choose 5 different versions. I'm going to be showing you the Asimov version and the original version, the sort of olivey green coloured one. These are the two that you will most likely recognise from games such as Counter-Strike, and I remember it was actually added to TF2, the upper hand. Some of you might have used that. It's a very well-known rifle, and it actually fits the Payday world very nicely. It will replace the Thanatos, and not only does it have a brand new model, it also has new sounds, which sound incredible. And as I said, 5 different versions. You've got the Asimov, the original, you've got the Dragon, you have the Favela, and you have the Elegant Red. They all look really nicely done, and as I said, it's not just a retexture, it's a whole different model, which again fits in with the world quite nicely and will not obstruct your screen too much. There are a couple of model issues that I'm sure are being fixed as we speak. Things like the reload animation doesn't look quite right, the rebolting and rechambering does not look quite right, and one of the biggest issues I had with it was that the reload animation took an extra second if you fired out the full clip, but there was nothing to indicate that other than Hox HUD. So a couple of these changes could be made to make this the perfect weapon mod, in my opinion, especially seeing as how the Thanatos is such a popular weapon. Sod realism, the next mod is a retexture for the grenades. It is the Pokenades mod, released by Last Bullet Gaming in partnership this time with Quas, and it is an excellent mod, especially for messing around with this weekend. I'm going to recommend it, if only just because it makes such a great sound effect when you throw the grenade. You're going to be able to see the nicely retextured grenade model sitting within the grenade case asset as well, and when you throw them out, again you can see the little red and white Pokeballs sitting next to the guards, innocent as anything, and all of a sudden it explodes in a blaze of glory and makes the releasing Pokemon noise from the anime and the games. Great for a Pokemon fan, great for someone who's just up for a bit of fun on Payday. A massive recommendation from me, and again, just try it out and see if you enjoy it. We have 2 more mods for you to round out this week's mods of the week. One for you anime lovers out there, and one for you lovers of the Car 4. The first one we're going to look at is the Car 4. We have the Car 4 Camo and Drum Mag series. This was uploaded by Ryzak again, and I say it's a series because you can basically choose any color combination that Ryzak has thought up for your Car 4 and download it off Last Bullet. I'm going to link you specifically to the one we're looking at right here, which is the Hex White and Blue camo, which I think is overall the most realistic and moderate, and the one that most fits the urban environment, but lots of other choices out there for you. So what really impresses me about this mod, and what I've noticed recently, a lot of the retextures have been there's specific retextures for each and every individual attachment for the weapon. And what that does is it allows for, instead of a bland and overlapping texture set, it allows for more black as well as the retextures and colouring, and breaks up the overall design, just makes it look that bit more appealing. So you've got colour on your barrel, on your stock, on the drum mags themselves, which, let's talk about them really briefly. The drum mags look incredibly good, and the attachment itself is such a good attachment. I don't know why you wouldn't want to bring it. The attachment is, of course, the quad stacked mag, and the weapon just looks better than it ever has before. I don't know why you wouldn't want to take a look at this mod if you're a regular user of the Car 4, and again, you can choose any colour combination of your choice as long as it's blitzed through Rysek's head, which it probably has. You can go for blues, you can go for oranges, yellows, greens, darker graffiti type colours, and it's an excellent looking weapon retexture. I love the way we're doing these retextures piece by piece, and it creates an overall nicer looking weapon overall. So a huge recommendation from me. Last but by no means least, as promised for you anime fans, we have Ludwigs Gloves from Hellsing. These were made by Supernova, and they are overall a really well detailed, nicely coloured, of course, white gloves, and a fantastic retexture overall. They are most noticeable when you're sitting in the menu screen, so when you're flipping your infamy card around, you will notice these gloves with the pentagram on the knuckle side of them, but other than that, they are noticeable within the heist. Of course, I'm a huge fan of the colour white, so it's a personal preference of mine, but you will occasionally catch glimpses of the rather satanic pentagram, again on the upper side of the hand, when you're swapping between weapons and when you're dual wielding. As I've already said, really well detailed, really nice looking mod, and a nice bit of fan service for those of you who enjoy the Hellsing anime. I know I did. So we're going to be closing off this video, going into the outro scene. The mods I actually used to make the outro scene a little more interesting are both made by Vicious Walrus. They are his assorted dancing mods. You have cloakers, tasers, bulldozers. I just have the cloaker and bulldozer going for you, but for whatever reason, sometimes the mask shows through the cloaker's mask, so you get this really creepy metamorphosis of a old Hoxton / cloaker. You'll see. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one.